It is a rare beans. Like there's days where you may want to just kind of keep trading if you can. It's rare beans that you get like just a clean. I mean, how many times have we seen like a 9 EMA trender on the QQQs in all this time in absence of like some like big bottom that's been happening. But you had a 9 EMA D rider the whole day, and that did probably suck up a good chunk of the range. I wouldn't be surprised to see today a little bit more choppy. When you get like this kind of like huge range, those are usually the days like you kind of, you gotta kind of like press it a little bit, because like after that, you typically don't have like a second big follow through day, not in indexes. So today we got a gap up. I think as long as we hold over, hey Nicole, how you doing? As long as we hold over yesterday's highs, things will start to marinate. So we're up like 0.7%, right? So if you're looking at the NASDAQ, watch yesterday's highs. That's like 267. If you can kind of hold over there, even if you pull back at the open, I think that first dip probably gets bought in the market, and you're going to have, like a fairly decent day. Now, one thing with indexes to be mindful of is that, even if you have a big day in a particular index like the NASDAQ, the next day, even if the market is flat or like it's just sitting around, you're not going to have necessarily, it doesn't mean like it's going to be like a choppy day. Frankly, for like breakout trading or momentum trading, flat days in the market are probably the easiest days to trade, because it becomes a stock picker's market where like individual stocks are going. So I think that, we'll have, as long as we kind of hold over this high, we may pull back a little bit at the open with a 0.7% gap, but like as long as we hold, I think we're gonna be, good to go. Hey Ravi, what's up, baby? Cool. Well, let's take a look and see like what kind of earnings plays are out, and then we'll kind of go into the regular watch list. This Caesars was bought out by Eldorado, so I don't believe this is, this is not really something we want to play. IMRN's got, a secondary PR up. This is a pump and dump stock. You can see like it went from 6 to 20 and then just reversed back all the way to 11. Like you can play stuff like this, if you've got like very, very, stretchy fingers. But that's not, it's hard to build a whole system around that, because you can be holding and it just dumps out of nowhere. Not really, my personal cup of tea. Hibbert Sports, same store. Man, anybody ever been to a Hibbert Sports? Disgusting place. They got nothing going on. Nothing going on. It's not like Dick's, man. You go into a Dick's, you're feeling like, yes. These Hibbert Sports, not that cool. Now, you do got a PR here, but it is running into resistance. It looks like, man, racing to big gains in late trading after forecasting 70% jumping. That's a lot, actually. I change my mind. Including 200% rise in digital sales, 60% from brick and mortar. That's like a good tagline, no matter what the underlying guts of it is. And the reason is, the float on this like 16 million. If you get a stock that's like really, at a key spot, and like it's got some good buzzwords where it's like, it's growing and doing this and all that kind of fun stuff, this may have a chance. I'm wondering about the liquidity on this, like whether it's going to be, frankly, like I like to trade stocks that do, 5 million shares plus in volume. This one may not get there, but you do got a big range there. I'm going to add this to the, the watch list for like and we'll watch it at the open. We'll see if this thing has has any juice on it. The chart is frankly nice. And if you're growing like a smaller account, it's frankly a little bit easier to trade some of these thinner names. Like you have 300, 400 shares and these kind of things, at least on the swing side, because they'll rip like 5, 10 points. It's frankly much easier to grow a smaller account when you focus on like, not like the thick, heavy volume stocks, but like something a little bit lower float, but like less volume too. They start skipping around. AAOY. So this thing's gapped up 10%, but I'm not seeing necessarily any heat on this thing. Pass. What do you think of this? Foot Locker? No good, right? I pass on this. So this is like, all right, so this thing is, upsizing, revolving credit facility. This thing's been stuck in a big range. Like, that's not really, our cup of tea. Now, check out, like, an interesting thing that's been happening over the last few days. Silver's been starting to go bajonkers. I haven't traded silver in, like years. I can't even remember. It would have been, like, during this phase here. Silver had, like, this one moment in time. It had this one amazing moment in time where it went from 10 to 48, and it's been like stuck now for years and years, and you're starting to like kind of come out of that where like you're starting to like this big base breakout that's been happening, and it's a little bit, it's up a little couple days, 2 minutes in a row. But like this is something that's really starting to speed up. Probably something you want to be watching, like especially if you have like IRAs, 401ks, all that kind of fun stuff. Like this, this is a hot chart. Like you've bottomed out and doubled up. Like I definitely think I think this one you want to be watching silver over the next couple weeks. I would even put I'd even put like a couple silver stocks on your watch list. They might be worth a couple decent swings on them. The rest of this stuff is all junk. All right, let's see on the downside what we got. You know what? ACAD might actually be worth a gander here. You got room down to 45 on this thing. It looks like they had some news out where, disappointing results. I think we may, we may be able to play this. I'd add ACAT to the list for an ORB to the downside. When you got like a stock that's like kind of busted down like this on some, all these biotech stocks are going. So the ones that get the bad news actually get hit pretty well. If it's got liquidity at the open, we'll probably be able to take this thing down into 43, 45 range. You got a nice, easy pre-market level to watch around too. So we'll keep an eye on that. So let's say I don't see anything else here that's like worth a damn on the earnings side, which is totally fine. Let's talk about like just what's the regular watch list like. What's hot, right? What's hot? Hot or not? Anybody ever play that? Is that app still around? That thing was amazing. Hot or not? There's nothing more simple than that. Jason says he found his wife on that thing. Alright. Hot or Not was amazing though. It really was. Now let's go into like the regular watch list. These EV stocks were really picking up. We took this NIO yesterday a couple times. I held it actually into the close. Sold it at the close. You held at your 20 SMA here. When you go in, like, see like you get a nice orderly, pretty good pullback from 16 down to like 1050. That's a good solid retracement on a stock like that. Now you're back into the bounce mode. You've remounted your EMAs here. It gapped up too much today, but as it fills this gap, like watch and see how this thing starts to react either at the 9 EMA on the intraday chart or at this gap fill. Once it starts to hit that gap fill, if you start to get some traction around there where it starts to hold, you'll get yourself a potential long, especially like if you kind of manage it around where the 9 EMAs on the daily, like that one's going to be pretty good. We had a sick end of day ripper on Workhorse, doing very, very similar. Like you can see the range on this was sick. It went from 14... 17. I think I took this rip over here, and this is like a nice pattern over here. Like this company's probably a turd, but who cares, right? Like at least it's got enough liquidity to get in and out. You got a flag pattern over here. You remounted, all your MAs. Look at this bad boy. Like you got like a nice you got yourself you got some nice action on this one. Yeah, I would roll with that. Like, I think that any dip on this one at the open, it's a 3% gap up. Let's start to see like how this thing starts to react. You're right on the 9. You got 2 levels of support over here. We're gonna be, we're gonna be good to go, I think. Let's roll. That's top of the list along with NIO. Yes, Tesla's been going too, but Tesla's already rolled over. It's popped down like $80, which would make sense. Like, it did just roll 200 points into the close. Let's see how this one acts. Like, you had a flag that was developing with the 9 EMA kind of curls for the girls under it, and you had the big push. This gap is going to take some of the wind out of some of these things. But, like, if you start to get some traction on this, and we are noticing that in the price action we are noticing the price action of this. Like, every dip on this thing gets bought up. So, like, if it starts, you get like a nice 1-2% pullback at the open, there's a good shot that buyers come in on this thing. It's been happening every time. Like, if you watch, like, the price action on it, anytime you get some weakness on the tape on this thing, they're coming in hot on it. So I keep an eye on this one. If it starts to hold and goes red to green like the rest of I think the rest of these EV stocks will start to get some action on them and we'll be good to go. So let's talk about that. So we got Tesla, we got Workhorse, we got NIO we'll be able to trade. What's another one? Solar stocks have been hot. Now, the problem with solar stocks, if you look at the TAN ETF, solar stocks have been hot, but the big hairy but is you're up like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 7 days. You're resting at the top of the Bollinger Band right now on the solar, the solar index. The other thing that you could see is like this thing is just long in the tooth, right? If this thing is long in the tooth. Now, Nikola's a big, giant, smelly piece of excrement. So out of all the, EV ones, that's probably one to stay away from. It's because the trend on it's down, right? So it's really hard to kind of do it. But these solar is hot, but like it needs a breather. Like you can't roll in this hot like this many days in a row without like getting in a solar stock and the rug could pull on you at any second. So I do like solar, but like these names like Rudd and stuff, you can't really buy these. These are shorts at this point. The only one that doesn't seem like it's that extended is maybe the Setage. What's some other ones? I mean, they got VSLR. I think this was bought out too. By Run, maybe. I would let these things... I put these all on a list. Like SPWR is another one. Put these all on a list. You got a big breakout on this one. Put these all on a list. It may not be today. They're all running. It may not be today, but they are something to watch. Like FSLR is another solar company. This one doesn't move as fun. But I would put them on a list and start to monitor them over the next, few days to a week. They'll start to pull back. They'll start to reset. The trend on them is pretty high, and I don't want to come in hot on these things right now. I'd rather go in with the EV names because the base is tighter, where these are a little bit more extended, but they are good-looking stocks. Now, beyond EV. Like what did we see? Like if you were looking at the general market yesterday, what did you notice? The S&P 500 barely moved yesterday. It was up like 0.8% give or take, or it was up decent. Nothing too crazy. The SPY was up a little bit. Now you can see like the IWM was actually weak on yesterday. The Dow was up just barely 0.3% yesterday. The SPY was up 0.8. So the action was in tech. So if you're looking at the indexes, 0.3% on index is first of all a lot. Like that's a heavy hitter kind of move. And the rest of the index, The rest of the indexes were kind of flatline. So the action is in tech. So when you see that, what you want to be doing is kind of taking your list, regurgitating it into like what's happening that's hot right now. So like I think you want to really stick with the tech index. Handful of names that are starting to shape up. This FSLY's got a rounding bottom over here. You start to remount these MAs. I think we get a day 2 play on this. This one's not too extended. Now the gap on it's like 2%, so I won't chase that gap. Let it pull back. That one looks pretty good. What else you got? Good. Roku, number 2. Roku's just kissed the 9 EMA yesterday. It was acting a little bit choppy yesterday, but like you're right at a sweet spot. If you look at like kind of your 15-minute chart, you're really tightening up on this. So stocks, right, they get their power from, right, that contraction of range, that contraction, that compression of range. As it starts to compress, you're building up that steam. And now you're starting to come out of it. At some point, you'll just see a kind of a mega penis candle out of this thing, and it'll be off to the races. That one actually looks really good. It probably is going to be, even closer to a little bit of a swing. But you want to go in definitely with tech. FSLY, Roku. Donkey Kong has had now a couple consolidation days. I think that Donkey Kong may have a little bit of juice left in it. You're starting to kind of build out over these EMAs. As you start to build out over those EMAs and you're really kind of compressing over here, I think if we can take out the top of this range, see how like you got about 37, 1, 2, you're kind of testing this 37 range. If you come out of this 37 spot, I think that releases it back into the 40s. I wouldn't fuck around with it under that though, because it could just fall to 35, 34. I think you got to let this thing get a release point because it's stuck under that resistance. When you get over it, now you got to be ready to go in and have yourself a little fun. It looks good. I like it. Penn is another one that looks good. Penn is actually looks better than Donkey Kong, but it's a little bit more of a tricky trader. But you've got yourself like 9 EMA curls for the girls. If this thing breaks this trend line here, I think that, we'll be day trading, but I think it actually starts a swing. Yeah. I think that one starts a swing. It looks pretty good. I'm down with Penn. Yeah, see, Netflix trades like shit. I'd take that off. Didn't see enough junk. FMCI looked fine yesterday. FMCI is a swing trader, though. There's swing trades and day trades. This is like a thin stock. It lacks volume. It lacks liquidity. When you have a stock that has good range and it looks good, but it lacks liquidity, that's usually going to be a longer trade. It's very hard to day trade those names because you're going to have more size in a day trade than a swing trade. Swing trade, you may have 300 shares, where a day trade you'd have 1,000 shares because you're going to be, you're going to be really goosing in it. So I think, that looks like a longer term move, with maybe a stop under 14. Not necessarily something like I want to be day trading. Yeah, JMMI, if you look at the weekly chart, you're at a sweet spot. Now, this company's like a huge turd. There's a shot that this company actually doesn't even really do any business. So, you should kind of, take it with a grain of salt. But the chart is hot. I'm not going to lie that the chart is hot. And we are technical analysts. And as technical analysts, we trade charts. You've got a big break here at 950. Watch any kind of dip on this thing. I would not hold this one. I won't hold this. I would not even mess with this one for longer than I wouldn't even hold this thing for more than a few hours. Mr. Olsen. But the chart is hot. You are right, as always. It looks good. There is some action on this one. I would not chase up the gap on this one. Let it come back and start to hold, and I think you're going to be good to go. So think about what the themes are in the market. So in conclusion, what are the themes in the market? Big tech was hot yesterday. Big tech, gold, silver. What else did we talk about? And then the EV companies. Hey, Nihar, how are you? Mr. Patel, Suchale. Good, good. Big tech. We can't chase this gap up on Jaina. Fuck, we should have took some of this for a swing, huh? How many days we've been just jibber and jabbing about Jaina? Fuckers. You know what? I was even fucking around with it while I was stuck in this range. Bastard. Guys, remember, when you have a stock you want to watch, it is about picking the perfect entry. You want to stick with tight risk on all trades. If you notice, like, right, anytime we make a trade, what's the risk on these things? Very small. Like when we hit Neo yesterday, right, the risk on it was, when we added this Neo yesterday, you know, the risk was like 10 cents. That's how I want to go with these things, right? I want to time them to the spot where you want to go. So anything you have on your watch list, Parmeet, anything you have on your watch list, you want either at the open, if you're going to look at getting a stock at the open, you want an ORB pattern, a quick pullback pattern, or red to green, green to red. Those are the ideal patterns in the morning. Once the day shifts over, you want to switch your patterns out a little bit and check on the, YouTube channel or whatever. I put a million videos on like all the different patterns, or just check on the website. There's like, we trade really like we have 18 patterns, but really there's like 3 or 4 that we use over and over depending on the market condition. Then you also want to think, right, there's swing trade patterns, day trade patterns, swing trade patterns, day trade patterns. Swing trade patterns, you're holding stocks 4, 5, 10 days based on a hot daily chart. Day trade pattern is something you may be holding for, a handful of minutes. Not a handful of minutes, but you know what I mean. Yeah, Parmeet, then yeah, feel free to, email me. I'll walk you through kind of some beginner stuff, software to use, all that fun stuff. Cool. All right, this is what we do. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. Big tech, EV. And we trade virus names like every day. The chart on oil actually does look really nice. It's just not really my cup of tea. Oil stocks suck to trade. But like this thing is hot. Who just asked that, Paul? It is nice. I ain't gonna lie. All right, let's go do what we do, which is the do.